All right, so Mike Vaccaro, the columnist for the New York Post, tweeted out that 1,500 days on the road in his career, and the best 4 hours he ever spent was this kind of old-time bar don in San Francisco. It's across the street from one of the best hotels in St. Francis, Lefty O'Doul's, if I remember exactly where it is. And when I read that tweet on the air, I said to Ryan and Andrew, I said, let's try to get Mike, because I want to hear about those 4 hours. So Mike Vaccaro joins us now. Mike, it's Mike and Don. How you doing, man?
Hey, guys. How are you today?
We're doing all right. Tell me about those 4 hours. I'm intrigued.
You know, it was just incredible because it was after a game, one of those standard afternoon games at Candlestick Park that felt like it was the middle of January, and he'd actually invited a few of us and said, "Why don't you guys thaw out? Why don't you come across the street and we'll have dinner and talk?" And I'll tell you, it was the first time that I'd ever been in his presence. It was just after I moved to New York. Moved back to New York. Obviously, I grew up in New York, so I certainly was more than familiar with his work. And it was one of those nights where you just sit, you don't say a word, you just listen. And he told great baseball stories, and he told great baseball life stories, and he told stories I probably can't repeat here without getting a big fine. And he told other great stories, and he just went on. But the thing that really struck me about him, Michael, was that he was the center of the room because he was the guy telling all the stories. But he treated everybody like they were the Hall of Famer. They were the MVP. They were the guys that everything that people said he was just interested in as we were listening to him. And I think that really I was subsequently able to spend a few minutes here and there with him for the rest of the last couple of years. But that night really sticks with me just because of the inimitable way he told these stories and made you feel a part of these stories, which is really a rare gift.
Mike, was there a story that popped out that you can tell us on the air?
Don, the one that really struck me because I think it really kind of tells you about who he is he was talking about how he was speaking with a baseball player, and this is the way he was. And I'm not going to embarrass him by telling you who his name was, but he was thinking about getting into TV when his career was done, and he said, "Well, how did you get into it?" And he said, "Well, when my playing career was over, and he didn't get the chance to say anything else." And the guy said, "You played?" And there were a lot of guys I think who probably would be indignant to that. And Kiner said, "I played a little bit," and he never bothered to tell him, "Yeah, I'm in the Hall of Fame, by the way." He just said, "Yeah, I think it might have helped me along in my career, so you might have the same ambition." And the fact is, this guy is currently working in broadcasting, so it worked for him too.
What did he mean to you growing up in the area, Mike?
Well, Michael, I was thinking about this. I mean, obviously, I think Mets fans had their three in Ralph Kiner and Lyndon Nelson and Bob Murphy, and Yankees fans had their three in Rizzuto and White and Messer. And I think that really, when you take the six of them, it was almost like a Greek chorus of summer every year. I mean, I think Mets fans were just readily listen to the Yankees broadcasts and Yankees fans to the Mets broadcasts because of who was describing the games. I really believe that. I know, certainly, I listened to all six of them, and I think that what really strikes you now is that, I know Bill White still lives. He just turned 80 a couple of weeks ago, but he hasn't been behind a microphone in 25 years. Ralph was really the last link of those six golden voices from a really golden era in New York baseball, and he was broadcasting as recently as last summer. And with him, with his passing, I think that really is the end of a very distinguished era for so much. I mean, look, Ralph was a great player and he was a great broadcaster. But think about this. Think about what an impact he had on New York pop culture in the 60s and 70s and 80s with Kiner's Corner.
Yep.
You're talking about, New York pop culture in that era was about as strong as pop culture gets, and he's absolutely a part of that.
And Mike, just imagine now today, the Braves come to town, and, I don't know, Jason Hayward hits a game-winning home run and then hangs around a half hour, 45 minutes after the game to sit down and be part of, like, a panel show. That would never happen again today, don't you think?
No way, and they were happy to do it because they all knew who Ralph was.
Mm-hmm.
I guess even those who weren't aware of what a great player he was, they knew who Ralph Kiner was because he was such an iconic figure, in New York City at a time when that really mattered. And no, you couldn't see that happening today. I mean, I think you see visiting ball players. They can barely get away with getting their 2 minutes in afterward when they're asked to appear on MSG or the S Network or SNY. So I mean, it definitely was a different time, and it speaks to what kind of level of esteem they held Kiner in, that they were willing to do that.
And it's funny, Mike, we had on Keith Hernandez a little bit earlier, and he said that when he was a visiting player, you wanted to go on because going on meant that you got a nice, crisp $100 bill. Imagine if you offered a player $100 now, they'd look at you like you're crazy.
Right. That's tip money for them right now, Michael, right? It is, so much I think about what Ralph represented isn't just, the talent he brought to the booth, but also an era he represented. I think he represented for a lot of us, and we're all generally the same age, you and me and Don, where, this really was an aspect of our childhood. And you know what? We all, obviously it's part of growing up and growing old. And unfortunately, this is one of those days when you kind of, you get a little wistful because it kind of reminds you that you're not 13 anymore.
Yeah, and as I said before, and I really believe this, the soundtrack of our life. I mean, the soundtrack of our childhood. Those 6 voices that you spoke about, and then there were one. It's Bill White, but Ralph Kiner I never got a chance to really spend any significant time with him. Just passing him at Shea Stadium or whatever, and he just seemed like the classiest guy. In your story from the Lefty O'Doul's restaurant in San Francisco, that he would even ask the writers, "Let's go hang out." I mean, that's just not done in this day and age. So shows you what an elegant and grand man he is. And as we mentioned earlier, he dated Elizabeth Taylor, so that's another aspect.
You talk about a full life. He got his money's worth in 91 years. There's no doubt about that. And I'll tell you what, Michael. I mean, obviously I know you, and I know Howie and Gary very well. I think one of the great things, I think because of the way that guys like you, appreciated the job those guys did at that era. I think there's a whole generation of guys who are going to come and get your jobs in 20 years that are going to say it was because of the way that Michael Kay or Gary Cohen or Howie Rose conducted themselves on the air, and that's a direct reflection on all those broadcasts we talked about earlier. So I think there is a genuine pay-it-forward aspect to this, too, that I think Ralph was very much a part of.
Yes, just showed a picture of Ralph Kiner with Liz Taylor in 1949.
And she looked good, Mike.
And
God bless him. God bless that man.
A listener sent a picture, a video on Twitter. It's actually on YouTube, but the quality wasn't good enough to be able to play, of a 13-second clip of Gary Cohen asking Ralph Kiner, how did you come about dating Liz Taylor? And he said, it was actually quite easy.
You know what? They don't make them like that anymore. And I mean, I'm not so sure that anybody that ever did that job did it with quite the way that Ralph did it and was able to experience such a full life. It is amazing. I mean, the man dated Liz Taylor. Just keep saying that to yourself.
and was engaged to Janet Leigh. So
right.
That's not too bad. So I'm sure you're writing something for the Post for tomorrow. So we look forward to reading it, man.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, John. Good talking to you.
Thank you, Mike. We appreciate it.